welcome to this complete AutoCAD training and 3D course. We are now on our lesson 6, which is data entry methods, focusing on relative coordinates or the change of x-axis and y-axis. We have discussed that the x-axis is the horizontal line of our coordinates, and then the y-axis is our vertical line. Okay, so this topic focuses on relative coordinate methods or relative coordinates, which uh, tackles how to create shape in relative coordinate basis. Okay, we have discussed before another data entry method, which is the absolute coordinate, and we have known that uh, we can create a shape when we are going to base our points on the number or the coordinates that is given in our example shapes. Okay, in this topic, we are going to use our previous examples, this shape, this one, and also this one. Okay, the difference of relative coordinates and absolute coordinates is that if you are using absolute coordinate method, uh, you can create a shape depending on the number of line or number of point given in your example. Say this one, this shape, okay, this point, our point 1 is having the value of 1 for the x-axis and 1 for the y-axis. Okay, let's try to evaluate or emphasize by using our AutoCAD platform. Okay, we have the values here. This is our x-axis and y-axis. Then it has the origin of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and etc. Then in our y-axis, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and etc. Okay, in our absolute coordinate, when you say the line is in one axis, one in the x-axis and y in the y-axis, it will be pointed here. Okay, let's try to create line. When we say 1, 1, it will point there in the value of 1 for the x-axis and 1 for the y-axis, I mean. Okay, so in our relative coordinate, whenever there is a point created, it will be our base point. It will become our new base point. Okay, that's the difference between relative coordinate and absolute coordinate. Every point, every point in relative coordinate that is becoming the new reference point or the reference point for the next line where it will refer or base its reference. Okay, so let's try to create the shape that is given in our example. We have this example number 1. Okay, I have changed my settings from absolute coordinate value to relative coordinate value. Okay, so how do you do that? How to change your settings from absolute coordinate to relative coordinate? Okay, you just have to type the settings, and then this will show up. Okay, under the dynamic input, you have to click these settings and then click what mode you are going to use in your coordinates. Okay, so since this topic we are using relative coordinates, so we are going to choose this relative coordinate. Okay, click relative coordinate, okay, and then okay. Now let's try to create our given example shape using our relative coordinate methods. First point is one. Okay, I decided to put one value of x and one value of y as my first point. Okay, the change in our x-axis is 3, the right, meaning to say uh, the only the only axis that we are going to use here is our x-axis, since our point 1 and point 2 is in horizontal line. Okay, so how many change of x-axis are there? Okay, 1, 2, 3. So we are going to type 3, comma. Okay, so since there is no change in y, we are going to type 0 for our y-axis. There you have it. There's our first point and second. Let's try to go to our next point. Okay, so if we are going to analyze the figure, there is a change in both x and y axis. Okay, one change, one value for x and one value for y. Okay, so meaning to say we are going to type 1, comma 1. There's our point. Then, since there is only a change for our y-axis, since our next point is at the top of our uh, previous point, there is a change of 2. So, meaning to say we are going to type 0 for our x-axis, since there is no movement from our x-axis, 0, then 2 for our y-axis. There you have it. There is our next point. Then the next point, or our point type, is 4 points to the left from our previous point. Okay, so if we are going to create a line or use number uh, from our base point to the left, we are going to use negative points or negative numbers, since it is basically our Cartesian coordinate plane. If we use numbers, or if we count numbers from the original point to the left, we are using negative numbers. Okay, so in our example, there is a change of 4 points. So meaning to say we have to put negative 4. No, so since there were no movement or change of points in our y-axis, we are going to type 0. And then you just have to close it. If you want to do it manually, you just have to type the value. Okay, so since there were no change uh in x-axis, it is 0. And then we are going to use negative points here again. So since our point is going, or our line is going downwards. Okay, there are 3 points 0 and negative 3. And there's our example shape given to us. Okay, that's how you create a shape using relative coordinates. Let's try to do our next example here. The H-shaped figure. Okay, let's try to do that. Okay, our first point is here. 8, 8, 1. Okay, so I decided to put my first point here. And then there is a change of x. In there is a change of x by 1 point. Okay, so since it is 1 point, I will just go into type 1 and then 0 for our y. Then 1 point upward, 0, 1. Okay, 0. And again, I mean 1. And then 0, negative. Okay, 1. There is 3 points. There is a change of y-axis in 3 points. Just have to type 0 and 3. And we are going to use negative again. And negative 1, 0. And 0, negative 1. Negative 1, 0, 1. I mean 0, 1. Negative 1, 0. Okay, that again. 1, 0, 1. Oh, what's happening? Okay, I'm here. 0, 1. Then negative 1 for x-axis and 0. And you just have to close it by clicking this point. But if you want to do it manually, you just have to type, since there were no change in x-axis, type 0 and negative 3 since it is downward. Okay, so that's it. That's how you create a shape using relative coordinates. Okay, let's try to do another example here. This irregular shape. Let's do this one. Okay, so I want to create my first point here. 1, 10. Okay, my first point is 14. Okay. 1 point to the right in our x-axis, 1, 0. 2 points upward, 0, 2. And then there is a change, both x-axis and y-axis here. Okay, 1 point. 1 point for x-axis and negative 1 for y-axis. Okay, then 1 point downward, 0, negative 1. And then 2 points to the right. And then 2 points to the right and 2 points upward. Okay, you have to type 2 points to the right and 2 points upward. Okay, then 1 point points to the left. Okay, so since it is going left, or the point is from right to left, you have to write negative 2. Then there were no change in y, 0. And then 1 point upward, 0, 1. Then 1 point to the left, negative 1, 0. Okay, so if we are going to look at the figure given to us, there is a change in both x and y axis. Okay, 2 points to the left and 1 point downward. So since they are both negative, we have to type negative 2 and then negative 1. Next, 1 point to the left. So negative 1, 0. Okay, so you can close this figure by clicking this endpoint, or you can do it manually by simply typing 0 for our x-axis, since there were no movements for our x-axis, and then 3 points, negative 3 for our y-axis since it is downward, and type enter. Okay, so that's how you create a shape using relative coordinate. Now let's try to go to our last example here, the arrow head facing upward. Okay, so let's try to create our first point here. 19, 11, 16, 23. Okay, so I have decided to put my first point in point 21. Okay, I have no line command. 23. And there's my first point. Then let's go to our next point, or point P. There is a change of x in by 2. So you just have to type 2 and 0. And then going upward by 3 points. Since there were no change in x, type 0 and 3. Next, 1 point to the right, 1 and 0. Okay, so if we're going to look at our figure, there is a change in both x and y axis. Okay, 2 points for our x axis and 2 points for our y axis. Okay, so we are going to use negative x axis here, or x value here. Try to do that. Okay, negative 2, since the change is 2, and then 2 for y axis. There you have it. It's our point. And then this point from E to F, there's also a change in x and y axis. Okay, negative 2 and negative 3. There's our point from E to F. Then there is a change of x in by 1 point. You just have to type 1 and 0. And then again, you can just click this endpoint to close the shape, or you can do it manually by putting or typing the value. Okay, so since there were no change in x-axis, you just have to type 0 for x and negative 3 for y-axis. And that's how you create a shape using relative coordinates. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you learned from this, and see you on our next video.